Welcome to 100 Talk, the fan home of the undefeated, top of the tables, popping off, best League of Legends team in NA, 100 Thieves.
A humble fan organization. That's all we are.
We are but fans here. And we know our place for sure.
Is that a reference to something?
I'm just saying we're definitely not overconfident.
No, never that. Never that.
If there's anything we're not known for, it's being overconfident.
That's true. That's true. I think this is probably the first time. This is definitely not true. I'm gonna say anyway.
No, there's no chance.
This is the first time that we both predicted a clean sweep of games, and it happened. That's right? That could be true.
I think that's true. It's almost certainly true.
Wow, Cole. You know what that makes me feel? Powered by Ripid Energy Fuel.
I was going to say, thirsty for some Ripid Energy Fuel. Let's go, baby.
Smack it. Crack it. Spill it on my phone as I open it. Cole, this is 100 Talk.
Yeah, this is 100 Talk. So I'm Cole. That's Jordan. As I said, we are a 100 Thieves fan community podcast, show, streaming channel, Twitch, Twitter, Discord, friends, dads.
Live studio audience.
Lovers. You never know. Anything could happen.
I don't think that could happen. Be real honest.
I don't think it's gonna happen either.
They say nothing, everything's possible.
Jordan, we need to get to at least week 5 of this split before I'm willing to make a judgment on whether that could happen. Look, the bottom line is we predicted the 3-0 and it happened. Now,
we both did.
Don't worry at all about how it happened. It's not important how the 3-0 happened, just that the 3-0 happened. That's all that really matters. 100 Thieves tied with Cloud9 for first place.
Right where we should be, based on how that last series went, Cole. And TL coming out the gates, laying a big old goose egg against league favorites, Immortals. That's
sneaky good, Immortals.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Look, their strategy worked. Nobody knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Except for the next two teams that played them. They knew it was coming.
Yep. Before we jump into the conversation, let me say this. I was looking for a way to flex what I'm wearing right now, and I couldn't figure out how I was going to do it because my body is too low. However, my light is definitely too intense on my face, so I need to turn down my light.
Okay.
That gave me the pathway to do this. So everybody,
hold your breath. Oh my gosh. Did anybody else see that?
Now, again, 100% wasn't intending on doing it that way, but I wanted to find a way to do it. So we're all here. Audio listeners, LA Thieves is mine. Okay, let's talk for real.
Let's talk.
Let's talk for real.
Well,
let's start the 100 Talk.
Let's 100 Talk.
We're going to revert to talking about the games. It's awesome, actually. We have 3 games in a weekend. I really liked it. It's a little much to keep up with, probably week to week, but
yep.
Especially on a week with the Super Bowl. Shout out to the GOAT, Tom Brady. Let's talk EG. Jordan, I described this one as a win that probably should not have been a win. I don't think I'm overstepping my bounds with that.
I think that's very fair, Cole.
Thanks. The bottom line for the EG game was it took us forever to get our act together. It just did. And I don't know, like when it happened, I was kind of like, man, this sucks. You know, I was kind of like frustrated by it. When I watched back like through the highlights and stuff, like I didn't feel quite as bad about this one as I think I did going into it. So there's a few things. I think like most of our discussion will probably be around the CLG game for this podcast, but there's a few things with the EG game that are worth talking about. So Jordan, where do you want to start?
I want you to start by telling us what you remembered less favorably than you actually now view it. What was the thing that aged the best to you? upon rewatch?
That's a great way to ask that question. I think what aged the best is that, to me, it seemed like there was a kind of defined point in the game. I don't know exactly where it is. It was late. It was like maybe like 28 minutes, 30 minutes or something. But it felt like we stopped the mistakes. It's like all of a sudden, like things kind of snapped back into place, and it was like, okay, we're not fumbling anymore. We're not going to over-aggress anymore. We're going to actually like play measured, reasonable League of Legends. And I didn't remember it happening that way. Now I will say, EG continued to make mistakes and allowed us to complete the comeback here. But part of that equation is we have to stop making those mistakes to be able to come back. And honestly, I felt like we definitely did in this game.
Yeah. I think this is one of those games where we were our own worst enemies to a certain degree. Like, and you listen to the player interviews, you listen to people talking about the team. That I don't think that's really up for debate. Like the players will be the ones to tell you, like, boy, we entered that dive, and that, like, maybe you shouldn't have gone for, this is not this game, but maybe you shouldn't have gone for top and bot at the same time. Or this was this game, right? Like top and bot dives at the same time. That's very aggressive. That is a very aggressive play by any standard. So, we're going for a lot. We're trying to do a lot of things. And this is the downside of that, right? Like, this is what can happen. And in lock-in, I think we got a little bit spoiled because none of it ever happened. Everything went right.
Right.
And, on one hand, it's incredibly encouraging that we are 3-0 because we fumbled a lot, right? Like unforced errors a lot. And we still found a way to win these games. And I think this is one of those where, this was the first game where we saw, well, actually, no, it's not true. The TL game as well, right? And we talked about this a little bit on VOD Squad, so I'm going to try to remember when I said which things. But, this is another game where we got popped really hard early, and we just stuck with it. And we kept ourselves in the game. There's a pivotal moment I have in my mind, but, I like you. I like you.
Thanks.
Like you.
I like you too.
I feel like there was a point in this game where it kind of turned, right? Like, we didn't give them the same opportunities that we were for the first part of the game by making silly mistakes.
Can I piggyback off of something you said earlier before we jump into that, though? Because you mentioned a really good point about lock-in where things that like could happen to us in those situations just didn't, and things kind of just fell our way for the most part in lock-in, right? Which was cool. I'll take it. Not gonna lie, I'll take it. But I think like it's kind of like the main difference that we've been pointing out with this team and previous teams is the aggression factor, right? We're always, firepower. We're always in the offensive mode. And to me, this game felt like the ugly side of that, because we know when you play aggressive that you're gambling every time, right? And a lot of times there's advantages to be gained by being aggressive. And we reaped a lot of those benefits during the lock-in tournament. And this past weekend, it kind of stopped paying off as much as it had been. Like this to me was just the ugly side of aggression. We had things bite us that had not done that yet, the split. And you mentioned it with the dives. The dives, which will be a constant thing for us. That was like a main reason why these things just went off the rails for us.
Right.
And that happens early, right? Turret dives are early. So when main early game strat starts failing, how are you going to have the good, the good early game? So, it could have been worse, I guess. But yeah,
it's high risk, high reward out of the gate, right?
Mm-hmm.
You either start snowballing early, or you are running from the snowball. And in this game, we outran it, right? Like we found a way to not get squashed, and we won. But it was certainly a different, like, remember, we've played 3 games now, so it feels like a long time ago. This was our first look at regular season 100 Thieves, and it felt entirely different from lock-in. Now, granted, we started to see some of this happening in the C9 games, but it was kind of like that wasn't just us trying goofy stuff, right? We had Rise mixed in with all that. Luckily, we didn't see him this weekend, but yeah, this is it's a different look.
Yeah. Now you had something about the specific champ picks that you wanted to point out for this game.
Yeah, for me, the moment you talked about this, where it felt like something changed, for me, it was around when we started positioning around the Baron take. So the thing that for me felt like it was completely out of our control in this game was Udyr, or Udyr, if you really like to.
I don't know, man. No one ever says it right, me included. So
Udyr. Udyr. He was just terrorizing us, and this was one of those. After this game, I was like, we gotta get that guy out of here. We gotta never play against him again. But the thing that for me was crazy is basically once we started to get, we stopped making mistakes. We were able to get established position on the Rift around the Baron pit and group up as 5. And it turns out that when we were grouped up as 5, EG had basically no way into the Baron pit. Because you had Bodyguard Alistar who could just headbutt, pulverize, like completely remove Udyr from the fight entirely.
Yeah.
And he did it once and he did it again, the exact same move. So sometimes we do stuff like that. Like there are times where I just see us adapt so well to macro situations, and it was a strategic rebalancing, basically. Like we were getting popped with our regular plan, so we went to this other plan, which was play it safe, and keep them off key objectives. They have no way to challenge. They would have had to throw themselves headfirst into a 5v5 on the Baron, which they did not want to do. That was their only attempt, right? Was to just basically initiate a team fight from a bad position, which is also not a high percentage play. So I thought it was super smart. I don't think that it didn't seem like the Alistar was a counter pick. I can't remember the exact pick order.
Yeah. I could tell you in just a second.
But I would be surprised if it were a counter pick. I think it was truly because like that's a pretty you're looking
it wasn't
way into the future. Okay.
Oh wait, no. They first picked Udyr.
Oh.
So I mean, depends on how you want to look at it. Yeah, we picked our support before they picked support, but they first picked Udyr.
Yeah. So, maybe we had that in mind of like, okay, so objective plays, that's a great counter to Udyr because he has one way in and it's to run. So yeah, I thought that's what I see this team doing, especially in this game. It's a game, to echo your point, it's a game we probably should have lost. And I think we would have lost it if we didn't have Alistar able to take Udyr out of those fights. Because if he could get in to those fights and either, stun out our jungler or, get into our back line, like we could not shred that Udyr. So that was the only way to beat him. And we found it and we did it twice. And from there, we kind of just ground the game down.
Important question for you. During this game, we had Impact go 1v2 against Sunday and Damonte in top lane. Now, I don't have detailed notes on this play. What I think happened is that he eventually got some backup that came in. But what happened is Sunday and Damonte tried to 2v1 this guy and came out with both of them dead, and he was not dead. So my question for you is Impact like where does he rank in your top 5 most frustrating / annoying to 100 Thieves players in the league? He's always gotta be up there. Does this to us.
Yeah.
Always.
Yeah, he is really good. Like he's probably not too far off the top laners in the league on just your standard top laners list, right?
Yeah.
Like he's both very annoying to us and seems to have somebody's number in a lot of exchanges they have, and is very good. Like, he's still great. He's still a great top laner. He was 2, 4, and 7, so okay, how great is that? But like he's still a super talented person. I think you would be happy to have any team would be happy to have if you didn't have somebody like Someday.
Yeah. And Sandwich said number 2 after Bjergsen, which is probably, I think, the best answer to that question for 100 Thieves fans. And Venom, Fake God got a trade kill in a 1v2 against us. He died, but he also got somebody else down. Not exactly the same.
Pretty impressive from Fake God on that one.
Right.
We'll get to that.
And it was great. But yeah, I cannot stand how Impact seems to do this. I honestly think Licorice has done that a lot to us too, historically. But anyway, the story is somehow we pulled it out, and it's a good thing we did. EG still, in your opinion, looking like a top quality team in the LCS.
Yeah, I fully expect them to be competing for the top 4 spots throughout the whole split, if that's what we're calling this now, whatever this is, spring. So yeah, I think they're good. And I think they'll continue to challenge teams. Like they've been saying, Jizuka has been a lot less coin flippy. Impact, like, definitely has been playing really well. So it's a good looking team. Like this, we shouldn't, and not to mention Svensk Garen, right, and Ignar. So yeah, they're pretty solid around the Rift. I don't think we should, and I think this is one of the key differences, right? I don't think we should shortchange how impressive it was that we were able to come back in this game.
Yeah.
Because it was against a very good team.
Right. And that's kind of my point in saying this, is because, we'll talk about CLG in a minute, but it's different pulling off a win like this against EG than it is pulling it off against Dignitas or whoever, right?
For sure. Yeah.
CLG probably fits into that category, but it means something if you're able to do it, which is good. EG, we came out of lock-in. Everybody seemed to put us in a tier with Cloud9, maybe not Liquid. Maybe people had Liquid separated from us, but it basically like Liquid, C9, 100 Thieves, then a little bit of space in EG. So they're like next in line to challenge for that. It's not like they were in 10th place or whatever. So it's good to pull off a win like that against a tough team. Like sometimes you need the grindy, emotional wins, like to against a good opponent to have that confidence, and seen it over and over again in traditional sports. And I don't think it's any different for esports. So
yeah. And the last thing I'll say about this one is this was an example of us winning a game without relying on our previous win condition. Right. And I think it's even more impressive when you can pull that off in the same game. It's not like we went into this game with a vastly different strategy or approach, and found that it can also work. This was truly like, okay, our best look is not working here. What are we going to do? Right. And they figured it out in real time.
Okay. Well, let's talk about the CLG game then, because this one, it was like a similar result, but against a different quality opponent, and probably for different reasons that we'll start getting into. CLG game, which we watched on stream, Jordan did about the best acting job you will ever see. Like, it was known that Jordan had already watched the game when we did this. That was not, we weren't trying to hide it or whatever. We said Jordan already knows the answer. It was like, what happens to this? The whole time we were doing this, I kept forgetting that you hadn't seen it yet. So it felt like we were reacting in real time, which was really cool. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. It was
so if EG was a win, that probably should not have been a win. CLG was a win that should probably not have been a win, even though it should have been a win, but hey, it probably should not have been.
I think I lost your logic chain on that, but I think I agree with you. I feel like I agree with that. Games don't get a lot closer than that, Cole. That was like as we were starting to watch that one, the Golden Guardians Immortals, I want to say, game was wrapping up, which was actually closer than our game
somehow.
Them. So yeah. So there were a lot of close games, man. LCS people must be feeling great about this because these games have been compelling. But yeah, this one was really spooky. This was a very spooky game.
Yeah. I want to, like, here, let's do this. Let's talk quickly about the draft. I have an overall point about the draft that I want to make, but maybe we have some more micro points about the draft if you want to hit them.
Sure.
And it kind of, because we did a VOD squad for this, my notes on this game aren't like as pristine. I actually felt okay coming out of the draft, which I think I said on stream, because I'm a stupid League of Legends fan, it's always risky for me to say how I'm feeling about the draft when it happens, right? But I kind of felt fine coming out of it, and then I was reminded that Rell is a champion, and they decided to play it. I hate Rell. I really, really hate Rell. I don't know how.
If we had Rell on our team, you would love Rell.
Yeah, I'm sure I would, because at this point I'm pretty much loving everything who he's playing.
Yeah.
But yeah, just such a problematic champion to deal with, and it wasn't even the only one.
Yeah.
The Nocturne pick was a really weird curveball. So
yeah,
everybody in chat, Jordan, you at home, raise your hand if you saw the Nocturne pick coming.
Well, he got buffed. He did get buffed.
But did you expect that to get pulled out right there? I mean, again, I'm stupid. Maybe Tim Sevenhusen knew that this was happening as soon as draft started because he's smart. I'm not. And I was shocked.
I only knew it was a viable pick because they had just talked about the buffs. I think the buffs came through in patch 11.2.
Oh, see, I wasn't listening.
I wouldn't have said that this is the comp to do it with, but boy, did it work effectively.
Yeah. And
I swear it was just the light switch. It wasn't even the dive, although he dove a couple of times with great effect. The light switch was crazy, man. Yeah. That was such a good setup for them. They used that over and over again.
And look, this is my overall point about the draft, excuse me. For me, I'm not sitting here thinking like, oh man, we lost the draft and I can't believe we lost the draft.
Yeah.
Instead,
look at our team.
Yeah, well, it's not just that.
Looks good.
It's not just that, because the Talia pick, you and I have talked about how much we love the Talia pick. Someday's been doing very well on Renekton, and Kai'Sa's a power pick for FBI. Yeah. Syndra actually ended up being really good for Damonte in the second half of this game. And like I said, he can basically play anything, so who cares? But here, like, I still feel like the way this game went, we kind of lost draft. But my thing is, I don't feel like that's a thing. Like, I don't feel like Zix is like, oh man, how could you not prepare for the weird Nocturne pick? Again, maybe I was just completely in the woods and didn't realize that this was happening, but I don't feel like we had a plan for this situation, and neither do I think we should have necessarily. So that to me is, in a weird way, like, more impressive that we were able to adapt and win this game, because it just didn't feel like we were prepared for that. We didn't have strategies in the can ready to execute in the event that they pull out Nocturne. Just didn't feel that way to me.
Yeah, and honestly, I think they could have I don't think Nocturne was the almost final nail in the coffin. For me, it's the Orianna Rell. Like, it was the wombo combo for me that just, like, we went standard. We picked a pretty standard comp with a little bit of global mixed in there just for good luck. And they went full on wombo, right? Like, it's, so you had, again, not to try to get into analyzing how this works, but just think about it. You've got the Rell to jump in, do her gravity thing, pop people up. You got the shockwave to follow it. Then if people are still alive, you can toss a cask into the middle of it, and the lights are off the entire time. Like, if you hit that full combo, there is no team who will survive that. If you're ahead 10K gold, you will, but like, that's an unstoppable wombo. And if Finn's casks were a little bit more accurate, they'd probably come close to getting that a few times, because they hit at least the Rell Orianna Nocturne piece I think 3 or 4 times. And it was devastating, man. It was like, we started the fight with probably 30% of our total team health bar because they just deleted it as soon as we got there. It was crazy.
Yeah. Well, so here's the other thing. It's like, we picked prefacing this, I still to this day do not fully get the Rell kit. Okay. I don't
Oh, I did some research.
Okay, so maybe you can definitively say this, but I heard him talking about it, and I heard it low because like you and I are talking, so I don't really hear the broadcast. So you guys at home, you have the benefit of like hearing everything the casters are saying. I didn't really have that in this, but I did hear mention of the steal the steal of the shield, right? Like the Leona shield is basically like nothing. It's like a buff to Rell if you're playing it into it.
So think of Trundle, right? Like how he's going to subjugate and take tank stats. If she autos people, she takes 10% of their MR and armor. And she has that buff while that debuff is active on the other player. So if Leona is super tanky, she's going to get 10% of those stats added to her own. And she can put it on anybody on the team, everybody on the team. It can be applied to everybody on the other team. So he was doing a good job, obviously, of keeping that debuff buff going. And that, I think, was the reason he was very nearly unkillable. It was out of control. It was so good.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'll mention, like, Leona was our last pick. You know, like they second picked Rell. So that is something that perhaps we walked into, knowing what we were getting ourselves into. But yeah, it's hard for me to come away from this thinking that we were prepared for the game that actually played out. So in a way, it's comforting that we still pulled out the win.
My guess is they took Leona to try to get a couple more ways to lock down Samira. If she got spinning and winning, you know, you got the ult, you've got the Zenith Blade, like you add a couple more ways to stop her. Because other than that, you know, you got the stun from, so there's ways there, but that's probably what they're going for. And I think they just underestimated how devastating Smoothie would be on Rell. And that was really, I think, the big thing in this game. If they didn't have that, it would have been a very different game. Although I will say RJS is not looking like a role swap mid. He is good. Yeah, he is really good.
He played well.
So not to talk too much about CLG, but keep an eye on that kid, because wow, dude, for his first reps in the LCS with, you know, he finished 8-3-12 in a loss.
Yeah, he crazy. Was difficult to deal with. He made us look silly a couple times. And even sillier that, like you're saying, this is a role swap player who is not typically a starter. So, a little rough. You wanted to talk about scaling Syndra.
I want to talk about scaling Syndra.
This is now the time I am allotting you to talk about scaling Syndra.
Okay. Again, I feel like we're doing a dangerous amount of actually talking about the game here. This is not typically what we do. But some of these things were just so apparent to me. So, as we were watching this game live, I'm going to try and do this without getting into a broad discussion about Damonte, because we do want to have that conversation, but we want to do it after the game so we can do it at a high level instead of specific to CLG. Scaling Syndra. Okay, so here's one of the things I noticed, right? RJS, amazing game. He got a lot of his kills early. On the team fights, he was a shockwave machine, like I talked about with Rell. The wombo combo was there. He was blowing people up. RJS was. And I think for a long time, we were kind of like, the feeling was this upstart is showing up Damonte. Like, he's taking over these fights. But I think because of the way their team was structured, like, that was their maximum power window. It was in these early fights, the early team fights right after lane phase ends, where power levels are, you know, closer together. And they have the ability to essentially delete most of our health bars before the fight starts, right? It's like a super elder buff where the enemy team just starts with 1/3 of their HP instead of you finishing the last third. So, like, Damonte, he finished 7-3-9. RJS finished 8-3-12. I fully think that without Damonte scaling, he was our scaling threat for a lot of this game. FBI had a great game too, not taking anything away from him. But Damonte had so much poke damage. He was chunking people out in a huge way as they were kind of approaching these team fights. I think that was super important because it prevented them from getting the setup that they wanted to, where they could position everybody just right, walk the Orianna up, you know, use the shockwave. And so it wasn't until he started actually hurting people in a major way in these team fights that it felt like they started to tip in our direction. And I feel like one of the most important things to point out here is that I don't think he could do that any earlier, right? Like, we looked like we were going to be soundly beat in this game, and we came online. And I think it's even becoming kind of a meme now. Like, I think I heard the cast say that, at 40 plus minutes, Damonte is the best mid in NA. And I mean, on this champion, right? Like, I think that was true. He was so clutch. He hit a scat of the week that, we talked about live and we watched back like 4 or 5 times, that killed Orianna as the shock wave was triggering. Like, it was, the animation had started and he killed her as it was triggering. So,
and we'll talk more about that fight specifically in a bit. Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll get to that fight. But it was the scaling that I think was so critical, because it brought so much utility. It wasn't just FBI, right? FBI scaling is a different kind of scaling where it's like he's going to flash the wall to finish a kill. I view Damonte scaling in this game as like he brought that much needed room for us to breathe in these team fights and to actually get some ability to influence the other team. Because if you look at the rest of the team, there's really not a lot there, so far as poke damage goes, or kind of carry threat before we're in the middle of a 5v5. And if we're in the middle of a 5v5 that they've started, probably at least 2 of our people are dead. So that's not really where you want to be. I think he bought us the room to breathe on this one. It was a huge performance from him. Some really clutch skill shots that are not easy to hit, by the way. Like, there's some high skill stuff. I think he played the game he needed to. Like, that was the only way he could have played that. And he did it exactly as he needed to.
Yeah, and I'll say, like, a lot of this is kind of a rehash of the conversation that we had during VOD Squad when we watched this live, which I wanted to bring back up. Because, around that 20, 25-minute mark, my gut instinct was sit there and be like, look, if Damonte is the team leader, this is his time to step up and do something about it, right? And so I felt like when we got to 30 minutes, we were missing that from him. And, as you're saying, with the scaling piece of this and the specific pick he was playing, I think you made a really good argument that no, he can't come online and do this yet. And he will, but it's too early. And, that proved to be correct and was convincing as well. I mean, he really did switch on and be the difference maker. The thing I'll specifically point out is that he was adding what we were missing with Ryoma last year in landing that poke, as you mentioned, before the fights start. That was a big piece that was missing from Ryoma when he would play, like Zoe, or I think, we did get 1 or 2 Syndra games, I think, out of him as well.
Ryoma,
and he's like, don't get me wrong, like he had some solid games. He had a couple of good games during the split. But yeah, it just seemed like poke was not really a part of the main skill set or whatever, just, for whatever reason. And we got that out of Damonte to get us the early, lead on these fights. So yes,
it was critical.
That part was convincing. And I know it's now kind of like a meme that I'm biased against Damonte, and we even had like a rabid Damonte fan get upset at us during VOD Squad, which was kind of bizarre. But I mean, he clutched that one out. Like, I don't think there's any way you can argue against the fact that he came in and clutched that one out when we were in a really rough spot. So kudos to him.
Yeah, I don't think we win that game if not for the performance he put in. And you could probably say that about other people on the team. Like, I don't think that's unique to him, but certainly the contributions he made were critical in actually securing that win. So credit where it's due. Like, he showed up.
Yeah. Sean Britt said that fan was Damonte on his burner account. No, because Damonte himself showed up later, actually. It was funny. Anyway, so I told you we'd come back to that fight. Yes. That fight was one of the closest fights I think we've had in the history of this team. And my gosh. I literally cannot believe how that thing played out. It was so close to going the opposite direction and us losing the game. And I think when you watch it back, literally everyone on the team does something great, amazing, impressive. I mean, the real craziness, right? This was, and we're talking about in river, right around Dragon Pit, just a little bit above Dragon Pit. I think like it's when it got absolutely insane. Closer hit a stopwatch with like 2 HP left or something. Like, this guy is dead to rights, hits the stopwatch at the exact right time.
I said it looked like he had a GA proc. It didn't look like
it was
stopwatch.
that. Yeah, it was that close to dying. And I think so. If I'm remembering right, RJS had the put the Orianna ball down in prep for the shockwave right then. And meanwhile, Damonte is kind of on the flank, and he's kind of engaged with some of the other members of EG as they're fighting, or CLG, excuse me, as they're fighting. And FBI is like a little bit above him, and they're kind of like trying to work their way in, and they're still like getting some damage out and getting some stuff out. But then right as RJS is going to trigger this Ori ult, the shockwave, Damonte like gets the sphere scatter the weak combo, and snipes RJS and wipes right before the damage comes through to finish off closer. And it might have also gotten someone else. Like I remember when we watched it, it was like, it's like that could have been even FBI like a 2.
Might have gotten pulled.
Yeah. And then like FBI too is like weaving in and out of there. And I forget. Oh gosh, man, I wish I had, like I said, I wish I had more pristine notes about what happened. I want to say it was Gragas that was, because Gragas is getting in there. He's going to like throw some stuff and with his skill shots be able to clean up kills. Right. And FBI gets like, he ease in and gets this Q off at like just the right time, has just enough on the Q to get a kill. And like, so like 2 of our guys got out of there with like 0 health. We win the fight. It was just so close. It's worth watching again. I'm sure it's going to show up on our top plays countdown when we get to the end of this split. But if you haven't watched the highlights for this, watch that fight and just see how everybody does their job. And it was just incredible. And while we're talking about people doing their job, is there anybody in LCS that's better with stopwatches than Someday though? I mean, I just called out an insane stopwatch from
maybe Closer.
From Closer, but Someday he did this all weekend, just like dropping the stopwatch or the Zonias or whatever, like right at the key time, right when it's just too much, and he spent too much time there. Now he's going to give over the kill, and then he gets out. It's like all the freaking time. I just can't believe it, man. I can't believe how he does that. So the team got the team fighting into gear really well during this thing, and that really makes me happy. And it's thrilling, right? That's what it's thrilling to be a fan of this team is to watch them really gut out those super close fights. It was just crazy.
Yeah. I mean, look, parts of this game make you worried. Like CLG is 0-3. That is not a win you want to eke out.
Right.
But the thing you cannot argue is that was an exciting game. Like, as fans go, we're getting treated, man. Like, these games are stressful, but like at different points in them, I am jumping out of my seat because we come up with a huge play, right? That's been rare in seasons past, so I am relishing that. It's good stuff, man. Like, this is fun league to watch. We're a fun team, and I think one of the most encouraging things to me, most exciting things, is even when the game plan doesn't go our way, so far we've put in a good show, right? Like we've made it close and we've won, which is the icing on top. So it's good stuff. I'm really, really happy. Obviously there's a lot to work on to grow from, but it's fun. It's fun to watch.
Yeah. And a few people said in chat during the stream on Twitter and even tonight, I think during this, that it kind of feels like the old Clutch gaming energy, where we had, even when Clutch wasn't that good, we'd have these like insanely close hour-long matches where we barely like get through with the win. So yeah, I'm happy to have to get my blood pressure in check for this season, as long as we keep coming out on top. By the way, thanks Math Geek for the subs. Appreciate it.
Yeah, appreciate
it. So look, Dignitas is a quicker conversation, right?
Yes.
Like, so I was. Siri just turned on in the background. Sorry. And she won't shut up. Stop talking, Siri. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Siri, stop. Or I'm sorry, I'm saying Siri. Alexa, stop. Sorry about that, guys. So I gave those ridiculous descriptions of the first couple of games. My basic description of this one was finally a decisive win that definitely should have been a win, right?
Yep.
Rengar pick. What are you thinking?
Oops. Uh-oh. I think, they got to look. They got to figure out what they want to do as a team. And if what they want to do is like the meme draft where Dardoch plays a different champion every game, that's fine. But I don't know that that's going to make you as competitive as you could otherwise be. And I get it. Every champ's got upside, right? There's a chance that Rengar takes this game over, and then everybody's hailing Dardoch for being a genius, and the coaches and the draft. But this clearly just didn't work out. I think there's a lot of reasons for that too. It's not just Dardoch. It's not like he trolled. Can I give you my thought on this game overall?
Sure. Yeah.
This was just a game that we played standard. We, the big mix up on this one for us was we didn't try to dive a ton. We just dominated our lanes. We absolutely crushed, just absurd CS differences. The gold lead. I made a comment in one of these games. I think it was a CLG game, maybe as we were watching it live, where I said, I think I can remember games where we've been up 4K gold. We were up 4K gold on CLG at 75 minutes or something. I said, I think I remember games where we've been up 4K gold at 10 minutes. And this is one of them, right? Where it was not close.
Yeah.
Not close.
I think that's a pretty reasonable take on it. One thing I saw out of us that I was really glad to see was the Tahm Kench and Senna lane come out. Mm-hmm. If you remember, C9 played that against us to great effect. And it's one of those things where it feels like if you show it and it works, teams have to worry about it for the rest of the split, or until it's not meta or whatever. And
totally
the thing about that is, even when you take it against a weak team, that can pay off. Now, I don't know if the plan was let's show this and play the long game. I don't know if that was the intention, or if it was just they're thinking about this one game and making the pick. It could totally have been that. But the maybe unintended consequence of it is that even if you do it against a team who's not very good, when you show a really effective lane, it needs to be planned for, right? And that factors into draft strategy and everything. So I actually, when they picked that, because it's like, I don't like it. I don't like Tahm Kench. I don't like Senna. You know what I mean? It's like, I'm not excited about those picks or anything. But we showed it, and I was like, okay, cool. We've got Dignitas. We're going to pull out this lane, and teams are going to have to, allow for that possibility in the future if it works well. And it worked well. I mean, FBI to me looked surprisingly good on Senna. To me, it doesn't seem like his champion.
Yeah.
Right?
Not his style.
It's not his style. It doesn't seem that way to me. It's like someone with more mobility, more aggression. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I guess when you get 100 souls and you can just click on people from your neighbor's computer, you're going to be pumping out a lot of damage. And he did. And played a few kind of bad situations really well. There was that 3v2 down in bot side when they had to retreat through Tribush to get back under turret. He laid down a really, really amazing ult in the middle of 3 of them that really made them second guess their health bars, kept him and Huhi both safe. They played that situation so well. I don't know. I feel like we showed a pick that now you have to keep track of. Now it's you can't just be like, it's really unlikely that they're going to play Senna Tahm Kench. Now it's like we can and we will.
Right. Nobody's going to cross that off the list of things. You don't have to worry about 100T ever playing that. They're not going to do it. It's not their style. They don't want to. I mean, I think there's a lot to like about it. One, who he is great at Tahm Kench. Some of those gulps he pulled off were absolutely pixel perfect. So watch out, because he's gonna ruin some otherwise great plays. And it adds a little bit of, it feeds into our broader theme here, which is, get champions who can navigate the map quickly. So, add a little bit of TF to your support and somebody else who wants to come along for the ride. I don't hate that. Not as much engage potential. I guess it's got more pick potential than engage potential in these team fights. So we got to have some other way to get started, just because we rely on Huhi a lot for that with other champs. But no, I thought it was great. And I do think it was a kind of a tech. I think they picked that because of the Rengar. As soon as they saw the Rengar, they switched it. And I actually think that Sett, I expect that Sett was meant to be a support pick, and
Oh, yeah?
they realized they could flex it, and they did after they saw the Rengar lock, because
Hmm.
it made Rengar useless in a big part of the map, right? You can kind of neutralize his ult with TK, as well as the massive shields that come through. Like that completely messes him up. So I think that was a flex, and I want to take my hat off again, tip the cap to Damonte. That can't have been the champion he was hoping to play in that game. It can't have been, because it is, or maybe actually I should take that back. I don't know that it wasn't, but I know a lot of mid laners who would say that's not the champion I'm hoping to play in this game.
Yeah.
Because you become a very supportive. That is an incredibly supportive champion to play in the comp that we had, right?
Mhm.
Like he was not the focus of the team, and honestly, I think probably more than anything at this point. Now that's an overstatement. One of the things that is most promising to me, and I think this has been the strength of Damonte with the Golden Guardians lineup, and probably something we just didn't fully appreciate, is how much he's willing to just play the game that the team needs. Like I talked about the scaling Syndra,
Yeah.
right? Like he kind of had to take a back seat, and he didn't go for these plays. He knew that he's had to bide his time and build. And I think the same is true with Sett, right? Like he sacrificed a ton of CS to closer so that closer could have an absolutely stupid CS gap, like unheard of for a
Up to
jungler.
100 CS cap. I could not believe
Out of control. So like I think Damonte, like look at Damonte. He's just a team player. And I think that's an incredibly valuable thing to have, where you in the middle of a draft, you can just say like, you want Sett? He's like, not really, but I'll play it. Because he's not gonna pop off. And he had some great like setup plays and stuff like that, but he didn't come anywhere close like carrying this game for the team. He was incredibly hard to kill. He was like slippery. They tried to get him a couple times, and he used the kit well. So he still had a good game, but not in the same way that he would if he had one of his preferred champs who he can actually be a carry threat with. So I love to see that. I think you have to have the right mix of player to do that, right? Like you can't just assume that anybody is going to do that and do it and then dance after they win, right? Like that is that's something kind of special that I'm seeing with this team, where it really does feel like they're just playing more for the team. And that game was so dominant as a result, man. It was never close.
Yeah, I almost would say you're still underselling it somehow, because to me, I did think he was massively important in that game. Like, I don't know. It's plausible what you're saying about maybe that was intended to be a support and then they flexed it. Totally plausible. I don't know. We're never gonna know unless unless they come out and say it. But it's just another thing where this is kind of like what I was saying about the Senna Tom Kench, where if you remember before this, if I was another team drafted against Hunter T, I'm not worried about Sett mid because it really went poorly against C9. It was bad. Like it just did not happen.
We flipped it and it didn't pay off.
Right.
And so
in this game, like Damonte showed that he can matter as a Sett. And I seriously, I think he was very, very, very important to this game. A couple of really clutch engages, a really nice boss toss backwards to get someone out of a fight towards the end. He basically found himself in a 1v5 for a few seconds over on bot side. Yeah, in bot lane.
Yep.
And ulted into it, by the way.
Yeah.
Like he got found by a couple and boss tossed back into a full team while waiting for reinforcements, and he survived it. And even I think they picked up a trade kill along the way, but it's like, okay, that doesn't matter because we got 3 and your turret and we're gone onto an objective, So and there were a couple times where he turned around and made more of a play than he had any business making, to me, I was really, really pleased with his Sett game this time. I think he has found his footing more after the C9 game or C9 series. Like it didn't hobble him too much. So I'm really happy with him playing this way right now. And that's a huge positive. So,
right.
He may be doing the corn dog sign off on the on the interviews or doing the side whip or whatever that was after this game. But you know what I mean? Like he's playing like in a way that I think proves me wrong so far, you know, relative to what my preseason take was, which I'm sure a lot of people will be happy to hear me say that. But, you know, he fits into this team at a way where it's like even more positive than if he was just on his own. So,
right. Yeah. I mean, I think it's, I think we've said a lot of what I had to say on that. Yeah. I don't think, hey, look, this is what we've always done, right? We did it with Realma through the whole season is we judge people based on what we've seen and how they're progressing. And in my opinion, Damonte is getting better already. Like, and I think that to me is impressive. He's showing that he can, like, you can't, should we just transfer to kind of our general topics here? Maybe this is a time to get into it on Damonte. Is there anything else you want to hit on, Dig?
Just that closer popped off. Good job,
yeah,
closer.
It was fun to watch.
Yeah. Yeah, closer popped off. FBI and Huhi have been playing great the entire time. Yeah. I think like the team's in a good spot. So let me just say that. And then sure, let's transition to general.
Yeah. So here's the other thing that I don't want to overlook. And, you know, it's worth discussing. You know, look at our bans from this weekend, right? So Twisted Fate, Galio, Kaisa. This is Galio, Twisted Fate. They mixed it up. They did Galio first, then Twisted Fate, Olaf. And then the last one is Twisted Fate, Galio, Olaf. So team, you know, the draft strategy is set, at least in the first round of bans against us.
Right.
And it's that you target Damonte. And there are 2 times you target a player, right? It's when you think that you can exploit a weakness in their champion pool or just kind of a limited champion pool, or if there are certain champions that they will beat you on if you give it to them.
Yeah.
Right. Like Riven gets banned against Viper,
mm-hmm.
which is no longer in the league, but yeah. You know, like he would get Viper bans not because like people thought he's useless unless he gets Riven, but they're just like, I don't want him to win this game on Riven. It's not that kind of game for us today. We don't want that. I think this is people assuming that Damonte is our weak link. And really what I think we're seeing is that it just isn't the case, at least so far, right? Like, might it still be your best chance at putting something together? Sure. But I am in no way leaving this weekend thinking that we have a Damonte problem. Like, I think if anything, he's showing us that, like you said, you know, put him on flex set that maybe we weren't even planning to have him play, and he'll still pop off. Like, he'll still have a great game. Put him on a Syndra, a control mage, who I would not say like he's known for, and he will make critical plays in team fights and leading up to them, which ultimately allow us to win the game. So he's showing us a lot of different looks, and for me, that is great because I think eventually teams are going to say, "Are these really the 2 bands that we want to go with right now?" And then I think you open him back up to play what he's actually even better at, right? Like, you only ban those 2 if you feel like it drastically improves your chances of winning. And eventually, I think teams are going to start asking, you know, it's early, right? So obviously this stuff is all going to settle out, but teams have to start asking if it's worth throwing 2 bans at Damonte, if he's still going to hurt you, or just adjust his play style to match what the team needs in a way that makes it pretty much irrelevant. Like,
no.
We're giving teams a lot to think about, which is great.
Now that's entirely too much Damonte praise for a 100 Talk podcast, so we got to cut it off there, unfortunately. But yeah, just the final word on that. You know, this is kind of just restating what I said earlier, but it's, you know, so far, I feel like my preseason take on him was wrong, and I hope that trend continues. So let me just be absolutely clear about that. I'm not rooting against the guy at all.
Exactly.
I didn't expect him to fit in this well. And if we continue to play strong, I don't see, you know, why we should doubt that decision. So far, Cole is in the wrong. It's an L category for me, but hopefully, yeah, like I said, hopefully he can keep up this pace. The C9 series was really rough for him, and he's bounced back, and it's tough to bounce back. So credit to him.
Now he's gonna be against Perkz, so
yeah, he's against Perkz. But to be fair, Perkz wasn't playing super well at that time. So anyway, we don't need to litigate that again. I'm just gonna continue to be pleasantly surprised as this keeps happening. So more on general stuff. So that was a lot of Damonte talk. You had on here State of the Dives. And
State of the Dives.
This is kind of funny because it's like, is this becoming the new like weekly thing to check in for us? Because it felt like the dives were such a hugely important part of our strategy.
Yep.
And man, like against C9, they stopped working. And then in these first two games, they were not working. So State of the Dives. What's your State of the Dives address, Jordan? I will stand behind you on the stand and clap when I agree with what you say.
Okay. Yep. Well, let's see. Wait till I give the State of the Dive first, and then you can see how you feel. I think we got to keep trying it. What I hope is that we can get to a point where we are able to try these while mitigating our potential losses in more of a way. So if you think about the game against C9, like next weekend is hard for us. There's a lot of good teams. I can't remember exactly who it is off the top of my head. I know it's C9, TL, and then somebody else who's not bad, if I'm not mistaken.
You said this week it's FlyQuest. Yeah. FlyQuest, C9, FlyQuest. TL. Yeah.
That's a stiff set of competition.
Yeah.
So I don't think we can go away from it. And I don't think we should. I think we should keep working it till we figure it out.
Yeah.
But I think the balance we need to hit here is not continuing to run into that brick wall through the entire course of the game if we're finding that the other team is just too well prepared for it, or to find different ways to increase the likelihood that we're able to make it happen, right? And this is what I think we need to be very proactive about when it comes to evolving our strategy over the course of the season, right? I think what we've seen is we had the early lock-in games where teams were like, whoa, these guys are really good at doing that. We should probably prepare for that. And they did, and they got better at answering it. We have to get better at answering their answer, right? Like maybe there's a little bit more counter juggling that needs to happen early, or we need to try to force a summoner out, just stopping by for just a quick drive-by to see if we can get a summoner, that we can then set it up for 2 waves later, or something like that, where we're not just basically saying, we're going to show up at some point and we'll see who has more TPs are ready to commit, right? Like it's kind of an arms race right now where teams are just ready and they're hitting TP as soon as we show. And that makes it a lot harder, right? Because I think in the past, right, it's 3v2, it's 2 or 3v1. And now it seems like it's almost always even odds. And when you have even odds and it's, early in the game, there's a very good chance that the turret is just going to take somebody out, because the turret is very strong early and always, but especially early. So I think we just got to continue to evolve it. And I'm guessing that we will. And I don't think we're going to just abandon that strat, but it would be interesting to see as we go, especially against some stiff competition, what the approach is. I have to imagine we're still going to show up and give it a go. Let's just not, because we will lose the games that we played this weekend against the teams that we play next weekend if we just try to run that same thing back. It's not going to work. Yeah.
And I really do agree with this whole, I hope we don't back away from it kind of thing. Like we need to figure that piece out. And what a good time to be facing really tough competition this upcoming week. I mean, I won't be sad if we come away with 2 losses this weekend. Unless we absolutely get curb stomped, which I don't think is going to happen. And I want to see us using the tough competition to figure out what we're capable of. I mean, yeah, we had a little bit of that in lock-in, but why waste this opportunity? So I do hope we do the same thing. It's not going to be easy against these people, obviously, but man, just the more reps you have, and not to go back to Tom Brady, the GOAT, but you're talking about in the Super Bowl, how many times he's been in that situation and he has reps on the winning and losing side. And, he knows what to do in different situations. And so, and wins in different ways. So I think that, we want the tough reps in this team so they can be mentally tough early, you know?
Yep.
Yeah, so I feel like this is probably the most excited I've ever been to play really tough people. I don't know. It feels like, yeah, this is really good for us right at this time. So
yeah, even if we get bopped.
Well, I don't want to get bopped. I don't want to get perfect gamed. I don't want C9 to do to us what we did to them last season. But yeah, you know, I want us to have like a good challenge now that we've had a couple of tough games to bring the team together, you know. Like we got through the adversity from the weaker teams. Let's see what we look like against stronger teams now. So
yeah.
There are a couple other things on general before we do takes and predictions. Do you want to hit both of those? One of those? Why don't you pick?
We can hit one. Yeah, we already talked about this. I think what we saw is we had 3 wins on the weekend. If you hadn't heard, and we won fast and we won slow, and I think that's very important to be able to be a team that can do both.
Get you a team who does both.
Exactly. Against Dig, it felt like we even slow rolled it a little bit just to make sure we didn't do anything stupid. Like we honestly didn't play all that aggressively.
4K at like 7 minutes, dude.
Well, I know, but it wasn't because we were like, when you're up 4K at 7 minutes, you kind of expect the game to end at 22 minutes.
Yeah.
And
it was only 25, so
it was 30. It went over 30.
Oh, okay. Yeah. All right.
So, you know, like,
shout out to Jordan for having game time in his notes. Good man.
Oh, we have and you know, can and will, like against the Immortals game in you know, in lock-in, obviously different stakes, but like going for the Baron at like 20:04, you know. So I think we could have played that more aggressively. I don't think it's bad that we didn't, but it's nice to see us kind of playing both sides of that coin. And then here's something I'm going to start doing a little bit this season is I'm really interested to see like, what are the quality of our wins? And what's our strength of schedule? Like, you know, C9 played 3 pretty weak teams in week 1 too, by the way. So, or at least teams that didn't end up winning most of their games. So
it's like kind of jury's out on how good the competition was.
Yeah, it's still so early, and I think it's easy after week 1 to say, okay, well, here's your power rankings. But you know, right now it's still early yet, so we'll see how it goes. But we're certainly gonna, if we can leave with another winning weekend, I think that would be a very, very positive sign.
Okay, and really quick before we move on to doing listener takes, because I saw someone say in chat that they want to see a solo kill of Damonte solo killing Perkz. Since that game's happening this weekend, I'm gonna tell you now, chat. Come up with something. I will do something of your choice within reason. If Damonte gets a solo kill on Perkz, all right, think of it. I'm not getting a tattoo or anything like that, but if it's reasonable, I'll do it. So talk amongst yourselves. Okay. Yeah, let's do takes. Let's do takes from people. Okay, Trimble87 says, what was more impressive, the 100T win on Sunday, which would have been the Dignitas win, or the C9 win on Sunday? And how do you think 100T stacks up against C9 after the reverse sweep? You first or me first?
Oh, you first.
Okay. I think their win was more impressive to me. They played a tougher opponent and they looked just as dominant. And plus, I think, like you say, how do you think 100T stacks up against C9 after reverse sweep? They will have, even if they don't have like a real playing edge against us, which they probably have a little bit of one, they have a mental edge against us from a reverse sweep. Getting reverse swept must be the worst feeling. Like, it must absolutely suck. So yeah, I think their win was a little more impressive, and I think right now they're kind of in a better space than us. I don't know what my prediction is going to be when we actually talk about it, but I do think that they have like a little bit of an edge.
Yeah. You know, I think I agree with that. Like I said on our Dignitas game, like they're you know, the Fake God heroics in the top lane, like, you know, C9 left that game looking like they were just in a completely different league. Dignitas, granted, it was not close. But I feel like there were at least, it went 30 minutes and we just kind of ground them out. It was not like absolute like humiliation. That's a strong word. I can't think of a different word. And obviously, like, I don't really love that one, but you know, I think that's kind of the vibe I left with the C9 Immortals game is like, wow, these guys are just in a different class.
Yeah.
It was kind of sneaky, our win against Dig. Like, it was like the fundamentals. We just had the fundamentals so much better, where every lane, every position was just ahead because we were doing things better versus like, oh, we're embarrassing people all over the Rift. That was my feeling. I know that's not an 100% accurate description of the game, but that's kind of how I felt.
Yeah. Okay. Lil Thieves asked, back in the lock-in tournament, Keen Lamb said, and Keen is awesome. I really like Keen.
Yes, yes.
I miss him and Jat having a podcast together.
JLXP, I was just thinking about that. Yeah. Like, man, that was a good show. I love that. I wish we could get that back.
They should just fire Jat so we can have JLXP back. Back in lock-in tournament, Keen Lamb said that this 100T team is better than our 2018 spring split team. So my question is this the best team in 100T history? And are we currently living in the golden age of 100T right now? Two-parter. Jordan, do you want to start? Ooh. Or do you want me to?
Yeah, I'll start. I mean, I think you got to let it ride out a little bit. Anything that you talk about now is speculative. I think that this team obviously feels more cohesive, right? Like but that was a good team. We went to Worlds. It was a great team. So I would not be surprised at all if by the end of this split, we think, yes, this team is better than 2018 spring. Right now, I feel like it's too early to call. But I think the pieces are there for that to be true. And is this the best team in 100T history? Are you talking about like across all sports? I think that's the implication there. No, not yet. We could be, but certainly not yet. You've got stiff competition in both CDL or Call of Duty World League and Valorant. So are we currently living in the golden age of 100T? Yeah.
Woo.
Yeah, we are.
Woo.
I mean, we'll see how LA Thieves does, right? But Valorant Squad hitting. This is a great looking League of Legends team. You know, CDL hopes are high. We'll see what happens once the season gets started. But I think if we have 3 top tier teams in what are basically, you know, kind of the 3 top tier esports, I don't know how you would say that this isn't a golden age. I don't know if it's the golden age, but it's certainly one of them if we can get all 3 of those going.
So, oh man, I do think that this team is probably better than our 2018 spring team. We had it really humming for a while with that team, but we couldn't really keep it going. And I don't think the league was as strong back then. Yeah, I don't think so either. So I do think that this team is better than the 2018 spring team. Are we currently living the golden age of 100T right now? Okay, here's the thing. It's really hard to top the feeling of being a 100T fan when 100T was brand new.
That's true.
We had the baseball jerseys. We had a great League of Legends team. We had like 300,000 views on every Heist episode. We came out of nowhere and made like a huge splash. Everything worked early. And to me, it's really hard to not feel like that sense of nostalgia and that was the golden age of 100T. We were like there were no memes. There were no 100T memes at that point, you know? And
we hadn't earned them yet.
Yeah. So there's something about that. And then also just when the Call of Duty team went back to back, that was really, really cool. So I'm not sure I can call this golden age of 100T right now, even though it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Here's the last thing I'll say.
Golden hoodie org age is what Coco Kids.
Here's the thing. Oh my gosh, funnel comps. I forgot about funnel comps. Oh boy. Funnel comps. It felt a little bit like it was gold plated in some ways. Like there were our core in League of Legends spring. Boy, it was a great looking team, but I think already the cracks were there. Like, and then in summer it started to come undone. So if that was the golden age, it was relatively short lived, right? And you couldn't really tell at the time until like it was like the gradual descent into what I'd say is like the wood age, which is like which is like
not even the Bronze Age.
No, we went way back. Yeah, we don't need to go into it, but look, if we can pull this off, it feels like we have super strong core in 3 of these, which again, we'll see what happens.
Yeah. I don't think we're going to react to this take. I'll just read it because I think we kind of already did. But 0000DT on Twitter says, I think we have our most cohesive team compared to any other iteration of the squad, even the one that got us to Worlds. Agreed. It's crazy that we keep failing dives like we do, which we talked about. Once we nail them, we will look far more convincing because despite going 3-0, I don't think we've played that great at times. I suppose it's a good sign that we can win when we play badly, though. Yep.
Look, let's just honestly, should we cancel the show? Like that was basically the tweet version summary of our show up to this point. So
yeah,
if you want the concise version, just follow 000DT on Twitter.
Yeah. By the way, and we don't typically read much chat on this show just because for style reasons, but Ray said, I mean, can we really take credit for putting this team together? All we did is take another team. It's not like Pop Smithy handpicked him. My answer to that is, does it matter? Like, we're just asking, like, when was it great to be a 100T fan and like how good is this team, not how it came together. You know what I mean? It's like, I get what you're saying, but ultimately they had to sign off on everything they did. So I don't know. It's difficult, but the fact is we're good and we like the players. We like the team. So cool.
I think if what the messaging we were getting right now is we are an incredible scouting organization. We found the best talent and we nurtured them into an incredibly strong core of players and then made incremental changes to improve them even further. I think that's where you got to stop and say, hold up, that's you don't get to do that. But signing 4 players, I think is, like, I think you have to give credit to management for that because no one else signed them, right? Like they wanted to come to us. We have a strong org culture. We've heard that from all the players who've played for us.
Yes.
The CSGO guys on their way out said, great org, appreciate everything they've done. Look at the CDL guys, like that we brought them back. People, it's not like people aren't picking up our calls. So I think that's a fair point, Race. I think you just have to think about like, what are we taking credit for? Because if what we're saying is, yeah, we found these guys, I think that's where you have to say, technically, I mean, you found them next door, and yeah, that was good, but you didn't find them in the amateur scene.
Yeah. Let's race through these last 3 just for time reasons.
Lightning round.
Unreal Dreamer said 100 Thieves needs someday for the mental boost he gives and efficiency improvement and how they take objectives versus not having them there. Without him at the moment, the team ain't a top tier team. And he says, I'm not downplaying the rest, just saying he's a core pillar. This team was pretty good with Hanser. They weren't great. They weren't as good as they are with Someday. So I think there is an aspect of that is true. And Someday, is a god. So no one's questioning that. But I guess the only point about this take is I don't want to like downsell what the rest of the guys are doing because I think the rest of the guys largely are playing very well. So
yeah.
Anything else? Yeah, let's just Dargor says, I'll let you handle this one. Despite being 3-0, what further growth do you think we would need to see in the next coming weeks to fully cement this team as a contender for the LCS title?
Yeah, I think it will largely come down in the next coming couple of weeks. I think it will largely come down to, can we find a way to bring dives back into our winning strategy? Because we're not going to lane gap everybody on TL or FlyQuest even. Like the dig strat is not going to work in other places. So we have to find a way to capture what has worked best for us while not losing the really good adaptations we've made on the fly and scaling that we saw in these couple wins this weekend, in my opinion.
Bry B726 on Twitter says, I think you should discuss that we won 2 games where we failed early game, which in lock-in was our strength. This shows resiliency and growth. Can we do that against stronger teams? I.e., if TL beats us in lanes early, can we hold them off scale and win late game through macro? That's the test. That's the exact thing that I think we're waiting to see. I agree that it's a good sign for us that we were able to overcome when we didn't have the early game go the way we were used to it going. Can we do that against stronger teams is the big question. I'm going to say, I think we probably, even though like we beat TL pretty handily, despite the early game being a little on the rough side for us.
Yeah.
Early. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think we still have some progress to make in this category specifically, but I think we can do it, which is probably more important.
Yeah. Very quickly, I'll just add, I think what we've seen, what we're learning about this team is at our best, we can beat anybody in the league because we have. And at something below our best, we can still beat a lot of teams, which is, we talked about that at the start of the split, how important it is that at our worst, I said this, at our worst, we need to be a 5th place team. And I think the argument for that based on last weekend is sound. Like, I think you could look at that and say we were not at our best and we still beat the teams who will probably finish below 5th. And I think with EG, you'd say they're probably going to finish above 5th. So it's actually an even better sign. So that's what I can't remember the question, but that's what I had to that prompt.
I can't remember what I was talking about, but trust me. Okay, so predictions then. Predictions are the last thing we'll do. Now, is Prophet Cole going to make a comeback, or are we going to get Heathen Apostate Cole? I don't know. Jordan, who do you want to go first? We got to talk FlyQuest, then C9, then TL.
That's the order we play them in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'll take FlyQuest first. I think we beat FlyQuest. I think they're 1 and 2 now. They lost to EG and TL. So those are actually pretty high quality teams.
Yep.
Look, I think we beat FlyQuest. I think we just have better individual players. Licorice being kind of the question mark, but I think our closer wins jungle. I don't need to talk too long about this. I think we beat FlyQuest.
I think bot lane is the diff for us in FlyQuest. I mentioned Licorice has this habit of kind of slowing some day down, and in some cases just straight up outplaying him. I don't think that'll be too dramatic, and I think our bot lane diff will be enough. I don't think Johnson's a bad player at all. I think Johnson's pretty good. But
he's not FBI.
But he's not FBI, and he has Diamond, which is not Huhi. So, or Core JJ. Oh my gosh, that dude is good. So yeah, I think we're just stronger. I think we win this one. So we're both 1-0 so far. Jordan, C9, Cloud 9, Cheaters 9. Just Cloud 9.
The
RSU 9.
I'm gonna go for a win on C9. I think the games that we've lost to C9 so far have been games that were kind of goofy for us, and we spent a lot of time trying to figure out what exactly was happening and lock in and why we did the things we did. We will beat C9 if we get our dives right and we draft a team that is somewhere on the quality scale of what we'd seen in week 1, and we'll lose to them if they figure out how to foil our dives again, and or they force us into some weird draft compromise, or we give them just an incredible power pick somehow. So those are the things I'm going to be watching out for. But I do think I'm confident that we can pull it together, or at least that we have a good shot to. So the dub 2-0.
So watching the team after the series, we got to look into what the team room was like during the heist. Unless Master Roshi pulls off a miracle, I think we just have a mental boom against C9 right now.
Come on, Master Roshi.
So it's all up to Master Roshi, guys.
No pressure.
If Ed can't get it done, I don't think we're gonna win, and I think it'll be close, but I'm predicting a loss to C9. So 1-1 so far.
That leaves
TL.
You go first.
Okay, so TL, I think that they're the strongest team in the LCS.
Mm-hmm.
I think Core JJ is a beast. I think Immortals are better than planned. But more than that, I think that TL is not going to be a team that drops games close together. You know, I think wins against TL are going to be found few and far between.
Yep.
In that sense, I think they're going to have a really solid week of preparation and go into this with like, there's no way we're losing a single game this weekend. And I do think that they vanquished the Thieves. 1-2 this weekend is my prediction.
Okay. You said it well. I'm going to go for a loss on TL as well. So I'm going 2-1. I have to remain ever the optimist. I mean, hey, look, it's a tough weekend. I think one of the hardest weekends on paper since we played EG last week that you can possibly have. These are like the other probably 3 top contenders for top 5 if you look at us and EG in the mix as well. So it doesn't get a lot harder than this. I'd be thrilled with a 2-1. But even if we leave 1-2, we go 0-3, that's going to be real demoralizing to drop back to 500. But a 1-2 weekend, I think you could still take a lot from those games too.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I'm fine with it. Wait, so wait, did I miss? Did you say we're going 2-1? Was that your prediction?
2-1.
Okay,
yeah,
so we lose to TL.
We
okay,
lose to TL. For
all
a lot
right.
of the same reasons. Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see. Everybody's memeing Prophet Cole in the chat. We'll see. We'll see. I'm just basing these things on how they tend to work out for me. But I just want to emphasize too that, like I said earlier, I don't see losing to these teams in like relatively close matches as a bad thing for us. Obviously you want to win, but if we lose, like I'm not going to come back and like my opinion is radically different of this team unless we just completely soil the sheets, so to say. Like I think that's the only way, right? That my mind starts to be like, okay, maybe I overrated them. As long as we hang reasonably close and show some sort of like trying to adapt to the challenge, I'm good. I'm good with the losses. So not going to get too upset this weekend, I don't think, unless something goes haywire. All right. You heard it here first. I'm going to put a Twitter poll out for the bet on if Damonte gets a solo kill on Perkz. All right. I'll put the 3 options that we combed from Twitch chat in there, and then we can all vote, and I will abide by them.
I will prime my Twitter bots, Cole. They'll be ready.
Call Russia. Yeah, this has been Hunter Talk. Thanks for coming, guys. These podcasts are getting a little bit longer, which let us know if that bothers you. To me, I'm okay with it so far, but we typically try to keep these at like 70 minutes, but we're getting a little bit long. I don't mind if you guys don't mind, but let us know. We'll have Rec League this week, so come and play. Follow us on Twitter because we'll be tweeting out the form from there.
I have to just point this out. Math Geek in chat, and trust him, credentials wise, more games to go through, longer time. I mean, he's right. Cole.
It's always so simple. It's always so simple. Like it never like the answer. Like
another game is another 10 minutes. Yeah. It makes sense. Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Math Geek. Thanks for being the Math Geek.
Sorry to interrupt.
To solve that conundrum there cleanly for us. Yeah. So anyway, like I said, we're playing Rec League this Thursday. Come play. I don't know. VOD Squad is always like a game time decision for us. Like it's impossible for us to play in VOD Squad in advance. So here's what I'll say. If on game day the Twitter is quiet, that's a good sign that I'm on VOD Squad. And if I am, then it's probably, like a 50-50 that we'll do VOD Squad at some point during the week. So just, tune in for that. Keep your eye on our Twitter. That's the best place for like immediate updates on what's happening. So
we're gonna raid. So
we're gonna raid. Yes. So please stick around to raid. And in the meantime, we will give the audio version of this podcast a close by saying we love you and we miss you already.
Take care.